And look at those pictures. Oh my Lord, how wonderful. I first became aware of this actress because of her big brown eyes. You will understand that a little bit later on, I'm sure. Most of you know her as Granny Goodness from the 10th and final season of Smallville. Super friends, let me introduce you to Christine Willis.
Nice to be with you today.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you here. I mean, and for such a cause as well. But thank you.
Happy to contribute.
Now, are you able to see the personal messages coming in? Are you able to see those as they go by?
I've got a private chat up. There's nothing in it now. So if
Do you have
there's
comments? Can you click on comments?
Thank you. Oh, look at this. Yeah. Ah, that's so nice. Yes, you're right. Yeah, there's lots of references to Dead Like Me as well. Thanks,
Dolores
everybody.
Herbig, yeah. Well, and I've got. Let me make sure that there she is.
Oh, good for you.
Her big brown eyes.
Yeah.
Which makes it understandable that I did not immediately recognize you when you did Granny. I mean, there's some serious sinister in that picture by itself. I mean, you embraced that, didn't you?
I did. And you just paid me a huge compliment, because one of the great things about being a character actor is you get to disappear into the part. So I'm always very flattered if people don't recognize me.
Oh,
yeah, I like that.
And what limited acting I've done, but with everybody that I've talked to, playing the bad guy, playing the villain, that's meaty. That's so much fun. Did you find that as well?
I did. I did a lot of research before I had the privilege of playing Granny Goodness, because I wasn't a comic book reader. My brothers were, but I didn't know where she came from. And for all the fans, you can imagine it was a bit of a shock when my agent called and said I was up for a supervillain at my age. So I thought, what is going on here? And when I looked into it, of course, the backstory, although the character was introduced sometime in the 60s or the 70s into the Superman universe, was based on women who were part of the Nazi army. Oh. And so that was very interesting. And so that led me into what everybody says, which is a villain doesn't think they're the villain.
Right. That's true. I mean, the villain pretty much says, if you just do things my way, everything would be perfect.
That's
just
right.
Trust me. Do what I say.
Yeah.
And you share a distinction with Ed Asner. Were you aware of that?
No, I'm not. That's another high praise. I've been an admirer of Mr. Asner for many years.
Ed Asner raised his voice level a little bit and voiced Granny Goodness on the Superman Adventures of Superman animated series. So you share a character with Mr. Ed.
Honored. Yeah.
We have let me make sure here.
Oh, that's so lovely. Look at this.
There's one there. I was surprised when you were on Trick or Treat. That is a Halloween staple.
Yeah. And that was also a ton of fun to do in a very different way. because she's so inappropriate. You know, so it was great to just be one of those sloppy drunks who, yeah, it was a ton of fun. And there was also the possibility when we were shooting that she would later reappear as a werewolf. So
Oh.
we did some footage, but it didn't make it into the final cut.
Well, I mean,
What are you gonna do?
you have some serious geek cred. Dead Like Me, Smallville, X-Files.
Hmm.
You're one of our goddesses now.
Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind.
Words are cheap. What do I care, right?
But that's a large part of the luck of being an actor in Vancouver. And I can come back to that. There's a great question here. Have only 2 people played Granny Goodness? That is a very good question. And I think the Superman universe needs Granny Goodness. So if you've got any clout, put in a word with the DC universe. And the short answer is I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, there was a brief cameo in the Snyder cut of Justice League.
Okay.
That an actress that we assume was Granny Goodness was in the scene, but no lines, no introduction, no name. So we don't know. But as far as I know right now, you and Ed pretty much have it nailed down.
All right. I'll take that. I'll take that absolutely.
When you did your Smallville episodes, were they also done in Canada? Most CW shows are filmed in Canada. Were you in Canada for that?
Yes. Yeah.
Was it like being home? Were you able to visit and see people? Were you able to embrace the hometown aspect?
Well, here's the news flash. I'm Canadian.
Yes.
So, yeah, Vancouver is my hometown. And so, yes, but we've been on lockdown here. I think that is that what you're referring to, the COVID-19 pandemic, or am I missing the point?
Well, no, I was talking about when you were able to go back to Canada for the filming of your episodes in Smallville. Was it almost like a working vacation for you? Were you able to enjoy your time there, or was it just get work, get out, get back to LA?
I don't live in LA. I live in Vancouver. Yeah, I should clarify. I have lived in LA. I'm a northerner. There's just no way around it. And I found the heat in LA was just more than I could take. So I live in Canada, and when we were filming, you know, I have my life up here. I was raising 2 kids, so it was, you know, all part of my life. Yeah. Yeah. And the wonderful thing about doing Smallville was actually, I've got to give a shout out to the star, Tom Weller, because we only had a brief interaction. You know, people who are familiar with the plot know that her business was elsewhere, raising the next group of people to work for Darkseid. But he was honest and direct and welcoming, and he, after the first rehearsal, he said, "Well, that's very convincing," just sort of to, you know, the air, not necessarily to me. And I thought that's very terrific, because he's under no obligation to do anything like that. So it's little things like that that set the tone on a set that make an experience remarkable.
Especially since most of your scenes with him, you were torturing him.
Yeah.
Tormenting him. You were breaking him down, trying to kill him.
Yeah.
And he was a producer at that point, so yeah, all praise, totally accepted. We love it.
Yeah.
So tell us about Reaper a little bit.
Oh, please too. Reaper was just a joy from beginning to end. I had just come off of Dead Like Me. I was and am a big Kevin Smith fan, and he directed the pilot. So when I had the chance to audition for the part, I really wanted to make it memorable. And so I was fortunate that I was able to do that. And then on set, it's one of those things that when you're a series regular, as opposed to like a guest star for Granny Goodness or one episode, the writers really respond if they're able to what you're doing for the performance. And so the storylines that they came up with for Gladys, the DMV demon, were so unexpected. And that's one of the things that personally I love about that kind of work. It's like when you get the script for the next episode, it's like Christmas, whether it's August or or December.
And I think it's a rule that you actually have to be a demon to work at the DMV. I'm not sure, but there's
yeah.
Well, there's my daughter right there saying, geek goddess. But one of her favorite questions to ask in Q&As, because we've done this together a lot, is practical jokers. Now, I don't know between X-Files, Dead Like Me, Trick or Treat. I mean, with all of those, there had to be one practical joker that sticks in your mind. Can you tell us anything about that?
I'm familiar because I started on stage a million years ago. So I know very well that kind of one-upmanship to see if somebody can break. And so, I can't say outright that person in Reaper was Ty Labine, which is not fair. Tyler is a fantastic actor, and he's got a great gig going on now at the moment, and I have nothing but admiration for him. And when we did the episode where Gladys makes his character fall in love with her, or in a dream, it was a dream sequence. I suppose really I've got to out myself, because in the script it said that the character took off her shirt, and remember this is a dream sequence, and had on some kind of lingerie. And at the time I was a woman in my 50s, so it was clear it was there for comedy. And when I went for the costume fitting, there was nothing. And I thought, well, that's odd. Have they cut it and not told me, or what's going on here? And I just happened to own a bright red bra. So the day of shooting, we do the rehearsal and then we shoot, and I went for it. I stripped off my shirt, and there I was in my red bra. And nobody expected it. So me, it has to be me.
Yeah.
But then, Tyler and I, he's such a great improviser. Then it became a kind of, the play got really hard to see how far we could go. Yeah. Yes, I love that Ray has played a devil and a priest in Psych as well. Yeah. Practical jokers on the Smallville set. Well, we were the baddies. I was in with little kids, and there my job was to say to them, this is all play, and I'm going to be really scary, but then the director's going to say cut and it will all be over. And one of the young women who, well, she was a child at the time, who played one of the children I've worked with a couple of times, Allie. She's just she's killing it on a new Netflix series, the name of which will escape me, and I'll have to come back to it. And she also played my granddaughter on The Gourmet Detective.
Wow.
So that's kind of fun when
so
you
there's
see
a relationship. I mean, there's
yeah.
a definite relationship there.
Yeah, yeah. And it came from, taking the time to say to her, and somebody's
has she talked about that? Has she, as an adult, talked about the time that you two worked together when she was a child?
Yes. When we first worked together, she reminded me, because of course she wasn't a child anymore. By then she was a young teen and she'd grown considerably. And also I was curious, being a mother myself, I just wanted to make sure that as a young child she could work with such dark material and it wouldn't be scary at all. Yeah.
That's always concerned me about very, very young actors dealing with, going all the way back to The Exorcist, worrying about how does that affect, So yeah, I totally understand that. That's and you talked about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And now she's on Firefly Lane as and she's just doing a wonderful, wonderful job. Yeah, she's a lovely young performer now. And I see somebody said money's on Callum. I would put my money on Callum too. for being the on-set Joker. Yeah. I just didn't happen to see much of it.
From everything I've talked to and read, I've met Michael Rosenbaum, who was Lex Luthor on Smallville.
Right.
We've met and talked and Q&A'd a couple of times. He was pretty much probably the biggest practical Joker on the set, but he had already moved on by the time your season came along.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, like I said, so the company that you keep on set, right? And so with the supervillains in Smallville, I didn't see much about it. I didn't see much practical joking. I just saw really professional people who'd been doing it for a long time and still took the responsibility to tell the story well, seriously.
And
that's great.
That was the 10th year. I mean, they pretty much had it figured out, I guess.
I think so. I think they did. Yeah, I think they did.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the X-Files? Because you had a recurring part on X-Files in the early years.
Yeah, well, that's another example of, depending on the work you bring, writers will respond to it if they can. And I've got a real soft spot in my heart for the work I did with Gillian Anderson, because that was my first experience with an actual role on a TV series. I said I started on stage. Yeah.
Right.
I started on stage. So segueing into that, and the Vancouver film industry was just starting. So X-Files was really one of the first that had many opportunities for local actors. And I wasn't sure about it because I hadn't done it much and didn't know what was going on. So I really learned a lot from her, even at the very young age she was in. I think it was the second season of X-Files was the first time I played.
She was much younger than most of us realized at the time.
Yeah.
Because she came off very mature. She came off, in charge. But she was like early 20s, I think.
Yeah.
Very
she was.
20s.
And she was so impressive to me, actor to actor, in the rehearsal. that I realized that I had to really step up and bring my A game and treat it as I would treat Shakespeare. You know, I had
Yeah.
to really get serious very fast to meet the level of commitment she was bringing. Yeah. But again, it was the plot line. You know, she'd gone through a specific trauma and she needed someone to talk to. And I think we had one other conversation, and then the storyline moved on. Yeah. It was one thing that I did in the field, but yeah, very, very happy to have had that experience and to be inspired.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You've done so much of the supernatural genre,
Hmm.
TV shows and films. Are you a fan of are you a geek, I guess is what we all want to know. Are you a geek? Are you one of us?
You that is
Do
such
you
a that's
embrace it?
that's such a great question, and I'm somewhat shamefaced about having to admit I'm not a sci-fi geek. I'm an acting geek.
Yeah.
I'm a real
Yeah.
acting
Oh
geek,
yeah,
but
theater geeks are totally true. Yeah.
right? Yeah, but I don't know. Like I said, I had to do a ton of research to play Granny Goodness to figure out what the heck I was doing all this for and what was the broad purpose. I certainly knew about kryptonite and Superman. As I said, my brothers read
Right.
the
Right.
comics, but I didn't follow it. And there's been so much of it, and I do watch a ton of television. So I would say I've been won over, maybe not so much with the science fiction part, but the supernatural part.
Right.
You know, shows like True Blood, um, which I was a huge fan of, and
Oh yeah.
really made the whole vampire story, for example, very real. And
It was an adult take on
yeah,
vampires as opposed to Twilight, you know, teenage angst, all of that.
yeah,
I enjoyed True Blood from these are grown-ups.
yeah,
We're not dealing with high school and prom right now. We're dealing with real stuff right now.
that's right. Yeah,
Were you a
that's right.
Supernatural fan? The TV show Supernatural, which was also filmed in Canada for 15
Right,
years.
right. Yes, it was. No, but again, a fan of the set. I did a
Right.
guest star very like the 12th season or something. And, so professional, and they knew exactly what they were doing, and they made it very easy to move into that world. So, um, uh, my guilty pleasures are shows like Outlander, where there's this sort of historical
Right.
time
Right.
travel
Yeah.
component. Yeah, I always enjoy those. Yeah, that's where I'm geeky.
Aside from acting, a lot of people might not realize that you also have produced and directed. You've stepped out of the actor's role and taken a more productive standpoint.
Right. Yeah.
Do you enjoy those out of the camera, off the screen assignments? Do you enjoy producing and directing?
Um, I don't direct much. I find it's a
You directed
big
stage
job.
primarily, didn't you?
Yeah, I've directed on stage, not film and television. I've always felt hampered, because I did start on stage, and the mysteries of the camera and all the technical equipment, uh, I've never really mastered. So I produced a short one of the producers on a short advocacy film. And what I really learned is how much work it is, how much grunt work it is. There's nothing sexy about being a producer. When you have to make sure the truck is there at the right time, and you've got enough people to load in or load out, and where is the food, and all of that kind of stuff. So
I like those shoes. Move that tree.
Yeah, right. But what I do enjoy is coaching. I only have a few clients because, again, I'm quite painstaking, and I don't have the ability to move quickly through the density of what's possible with a script, but certainly breaking down scripts and working with actors to find what they can really connect to when they're playing is something that I really enjoy.
I'm a retired teacher, so I can totally identify. Yeah, 32 years in elementary school. I'm still got the hair. I mean, is the lacing all right? I mean, it looks good. Yeah, all right. But
Bravo.
yes, being able to work with people and impart, that has to be huge for you. That's got to be fulfilling for you.
Yeah, it is. A lot of acting work is, you're working by yourself. You're hired to prepare as much as you can. Now you hit the set and the director might say, well, can you adjust this or can you adjust that? But you're expected to hit the set, good to go. And you do that work on your own. All the other people, the creative team are doing their piece of the puzzle, yeah? And it can get quite lonely, again, because I started in theater where everybody does all of that kind of acting work together. So, yeah, it's been lovely.
Yeah, because in theater, you end up handling your own props sometimes, your own costumes, your own makeup. It's a community. It's a conjoined being.
Yeah.
And tell us about a typical day filming, though.
Okay. Yeah. And I want to emphasize it is a team on a film set as well. It's just organized a little differently. And so a typical day on a film set is you arrive at what's called the circus, whether that is on location or in a studio. That's a series of trailers, and you're given a room where your costume's hanging, you change, you go visit the hair and makeup people, and they do their magic. And then it's a question of when you will be called to set. So you might be waiting for quite a while, or you might be called to set immediately. And so one of the challenges of being an actor for film and television is learning how to manage your energy levels, right? If you hit the set and you're very, very, or say hit the circus and you're very, very excited, and all that energy gets used up just because you're excited about being on a film set, and is gone when 4 hours later you have to finally produce, you're in trouble. Yeah.
I think they used to call that leaving your fight in the locker room.
Yeah.
Something like
I like that. Can I steal that? Yeah, that's
Take it. It's yours.
Thank you. Somebody's got a great joke here. Film shooting can definitely be a circus. That is the voice of experience right there. Yeah.
Well, this is not Superman related, but I'm also a big Monkees fan. The 60s TV show and music group, the Monkees. Huge Monkees fan. And their second season.
Yeah.
After Monkey Mania had hit and they couldn't do anything, they were locked. But they were also incredibly young. Davey was 18. I think the youngest was 18. The oldest was 21. So you give all that power to somebody, it goes to your head. And it went to their heads, and they were out of control for the second season. So the studio built, I think it was a discarded freezer unit or something, but they built a big black box, a big black room that had beanbag chairs, guitars, maybe something to smoke or drink. I don't know. I wasn't there. But that they would corral all four of them into that room and say, stay here. And they had four different colored lights above the door for each one of them. You are needed on set if that light came on. So, that was, they got around the green room aspect and built a black box.
I bet it worked well. Yeah. I have nothing but admiration for young people who navigate that kind of pretty instant fame, because of exactly what you said. It tends to go to people's head. And
Right.
I think that's human. I don't think that that's the fault of the young person. If all of a sudden you've got hundreds of thousands of people telling you you're wonderful, why would you disbelieve that? And there's no preparation for it, there's no, you may end up very, very famous. How are you going to navigate that? So the person that I worked with who I thought had navigated that extremely well is Daniel Radcliffe. I had one scene with him in a movie called Horns, and he found a way to talk to everybody on set, because of course everybody wanted to talk about Harry Potter, and he'd say, it gave me a lot of opportunity and I'll always be grateful. And you could tell he was sincere and that he was there to do another job. He wanted to talk about his work, right? He's an acting geek too. So that was very relatable. And I've also seen, the other side of it, of people who just never recover. So
yeah. I mean,
thank you. Krypton Report podcast says Horns was so good. Yeah, agreed.
and we've seen so many child actors throughout the years, starting in the 60s going on, that just went off the rails. But we also have people like Kurt Russell. We have people like Ron Howard. We have, people who have taken that and built on it. So people who blame the industry, I think, are way off the beam. That it's not the industry, it's the personality. It's who you are. It's how you're raised. It's the structure of your life that makes that distinction.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like a young athlete, right?
Yeah.
As long as they've got exactly what you said, they're being raised in a strong environment, and I think it really helps if they're reminded that they're a human being, right? Not just an actor, a human being. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Vera Kane on the 100. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, that was another marvelous opportunity, because she represented something so different in that early part of the 100 before the mother spaceship was blown up, and so that was really challenging to bring a certain moral code into a world that was falling into chaos, and where it was very easy to lose your way. So I really enjoyed playing her, and I was kind of heartbroken when she got blown up on the spaceship. Yeah, but that was the job. Absolutely.
Were you always drawn towards theater? I I'm not going to ask you how old you are, obviously, because I like breathing and I like staying above water. But how old were you when you went pro? When you got your first professional acting job?
I was 22. By that point, I had started in my teens and being through a 4-year university training program. Yeah.
So you did theater in college as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yeah.
We learned so much in college theater, don't you?
Oh, I think so. I think so. You take a look at all of the people who, even if they don't stay in acting or performing, and the skills that you learn, right? And I think those can also be applied somewhat to film sets. Again, the teamwork.
Right.
That you have to recognize that you can't do anything by yourself. You have to work with other people to accomplish something, even if you're doing something that is largely under your own energy, like being a writer. There's a lot of actors who segue into writing. Yeah. Yeah. And doing something for love,
yes.
I would say.
Yeah. And everybody knows the phrase "the show must goes on." The show must go on. But once you've worked in theater, you really understand. I cannot miss this. I have to be there. The show must go on. Yeah. I remember doing summer stock. I was doing Fiddler on the Roof in summer stock, and we were dark 3 nights in a row, which I thought, great. I'm going to fly home to Ohio. I'm going to see some old friends. I'll be back. And of course, the former girlfriend that I was staying with said, "Oh, I know a shortcut to the airport."
Oh, no.
No, she didn't.
Oh,
and
no.
And obviously this was 100 years ago, before COVID and before taking your shoes off and everything. But we got to the airport at like 15 minutes before the flight was supposed to leave, and I had to be on that night. There wasn't a layover plan, and I am running through the airport, and they are calling ahead saying, "Hold the plane," and there's the flight attendant standing at the top of the steps going. So the show must go on, and I think that's a valuable lesson. That it's you are just one small part of the whole. You are a cog, but it doesn't run if you're not there. So you have to show your commitment. You have to show your professionalism. You have to show up and do the job.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
What was your first? Go ahead. No. You also what?
I've seen film and television actors work through injury and illness, the same kind of thing. You're on a tight deadline. It's not the same thing as having to make a curtain every day, but there is, this is what's on the schedule. We have to get this part made before we can move on. And if we don't, it throws everything into chaos.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The old Three Stooges shorts, they were like 12 minutes, and they were cranking them out forever. I can name the scene. I can see it in my mind that Moe Howard of the Three Stooges takes a fall on the table and breaks 3 ribs.
Oh my goodness.
Still finishes the scene.
Yeah.
Still gets up and finishes. I'm going, that's what it is. That's professionalism. That's there's people expecting this work out of me, and they want to feed their families tonight. So maybe I ought to get up and do this. So.
Yeah, and I was a big fan, and still am, of that kind of very broad comedy.
Oh yeah.
I don't perform it very much, but oh, huge hats off
Oh
to,
yeah.
folks who are in that arena and can make it work.
Oh yeah. Martin
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Lewis, the Three Stooges, Abbott and
yeah,
Costello, all of that.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm seeing some parents and managers seeing as a payout push their kids. What do you feel about children? What do you feel about stage mothers? I guess would be the better question, because you could have been one.
Well, I could have, but kids have to rebel. So if your mother's an actor, the only way to rebel is to not be an actor.
Be a critic.
Not not doing that. No, not doing that. Not
Right.
interested in that at all. Um, well,
Have
I
you
think,
dealt with stage mothers?
oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. And I will say that the mothers that I've dealt with have always put their children's interest in performing first, right? That's what I've seen. I think a lot of mothers get a bad rap, and I can see the point that the person is making. There are some parents, sometimes the mother, sometimes the father, who live out their dreams of wanting to be an actor through their kids. Yeah, the same way that happens in sports or
Right.
in business, right? I think because some child actors, anyway, are very visible. And so if there is a fault line in the support for the kid and it's more about the parents, that again becomes very public. But I haven't seen a ton of that. I've seen
Oh, good.
parents really, really working to support their children's dreams. So in
Yeah.
that sense, it's no different from having a kid who really wants to be a gymnast, or who really wants to play football or soccer, or who really wants to be a musician. You know, have you seen those three young girls in California whose parents all work in the music industry, and they've got a hit called "Racist Sexist Boy"? They're like
Oh.
11 or 12. So that kind of support. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
what I
nobody
see.
harmonizes like family.
Correct.
I mean, look at the Bee
Yeah,
Gees. You
yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan of family harmonies too.
know.
Yeah,
what about
yeah,
what about Red Riding Hood?
yeah, yeah. Um, I was so proud to be in that. That was the first movie directed by a woman and DOP'd by a woman and starring a woman for decades.
Yes.
A studio picture. Yeah. Um, can't say enough good things about the remarkable cast that were in it. Um, but that was the big thing for me to to be to be part of that push. I think that women are underrepresented in creative teams, and so it was great to be part of a project where
Oh
that was
yeah.
not the case. Yeah, yeah.
Do you have a dream role? Is there a character? I mean, whether it's a straight show, novel, whatever, do you have a dream role? Because mine keeps changing as I get older.
Mm,
I can't be Pippin
mm.
anymore, but I could be Charlemagne. So do you have a dream role?
Well, I don't do stage anymore. So when I think about a dream role, I think about film and television. And so a dream role would be a well-rounded woman of my age. I'm a senior. That's got to be obvious to everybody. So yeah, uh, and the characters as written, with few exceptions, can be very thin. Last year, I had the great privilege of playing a guest star on a new series that's produced here in Canada, but the critics are crazy about it, so I'm hoping that it will get a wider audience, called Family Law. And I played a woman who was suing her daughters for parental support. And the daughters accused her of being abusive and weren't going to pay anything. So that kind of story, where, and it kept changing, you'd think, oh, this sweet little old lady, why won't her daughters help her? And then, well, she was a horrible, frightening, abusive parent. And then, oh, but actually one of the daughters had a drug problem. And oh, the mother tried to help her. It kept twisting and turning like that. So there's an example of a role that I found.
Right.
Yeah, very challenging, three-dimensional, and I find that they're rare for senior women artists. If you're Helen Mirren, fine. But if you're like me, if you're like a working stiff, you tend to get really thin material. So I would say that's the dream.
Well, I know I'm older than you are, but I'm also not out there trying to make a living as a working actor. So you have one. I'm looking at a note over here. I don't know anything about the Jesse Richardson Theater Award. I'm not familiar with that. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh,
You've
sure.
won
Please.
3 of them.
Well, I don't know how it is in the States, but I imagine it's similar here in Canada. Every larger city that has a professional, creative workforce, industry, theater, film and television, whatever it is, has their own awards. So like I know in New York, there's a New York Critics Award, and I'm sure in a great theater town like Chicago, there's theater awards that are just for Chicago. And so that's theater awards here in Vancouver that were named for a pioneer. Vancouver, Canada, artists in Canada couldn't stay in Canada and make a living. I think it was about 50 or 60 years ago. The States has that great tradition of wonderful, wonderful stage actors who would tour all across the States and sometimes come up to Canada. But there just wasn't enough of a population. There wasn't enough work. Yeah. So once creative workforce got established in a city, they would create their own awards, usually based on a pioneer. So that's what those were for.
Oh, okay.
And we've also got film and television awards that are specific to Vancouver, although they're getting more of a profile now. The Leo Awards. Sorry about that. I hope that didn't come in on your end. Where was I? The Leo Awards for productions filmed in Vancouver. So it's everyone who's on the creative team, from the more art and craft kind of position, like hair and makeup or special effects, to acting awards. Yeah, that's what they're about.
So you have watched Canadian movie and TV grow. I mean,
I have.
William Shatner might be the most famous Canadian who left Canada to come to America to make his. But you didn't have this wellspring of production of movie and TV production going on in Canada. You were there. You've watched this grow, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Especially Vancouver. There was a little more in Toronto, but Vancouver went from virtually nothing to being the third largest center for filmed entertainment in North America, right behind New York and Los Angeles. Yeah. I'm just going to step out of this and acknowledge Kristen Marie. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed working on Sabrina as well. Yeah, that was a terrific set. Yeah,
Is
wonderful
that the current
star.
Sabrina? The current Sabrina?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
film?
It was the final season. Yeah, yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah, yeah, and it was shows like X-Files, and the way they used the light here in the Pacific Northwest almost as another character, and created that whole look of the Pacific Northwest noir, right? Because we live in a rainforest, so it's overcast a lot of the time, and that does something to the light.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you know, it has a kind of a snowball effect where there's one successful project and producers and creatives can say, oh, this is what they got by going there. And there's also people who are skilled at their jobs and just keep getting better and better. So then everything starts to snowball and grow exponentially. Right. I can remember when there were no sound stages here, and I now know they're all over the city, and Netflix is building something purpose-built for Vancouver. So yeah, there's a lot of work up here, and also a lot of work going back to the States. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, it's been wild that over the last several years, Vancouver and Atlanta, Georgia, have become major motion picture television production agencies. And Vancouver, because so many CW shows, especially Supernatural, which has to show so many different pieces of geography. Vancouver, people talk about California. We've got all the weather. We've got the beach. We've got the mountains. We've got the snow. Vancouver has everything. I mean, any town that you could possibly think of is represented somewhere in Vancouver. That's amazing to me. That, like on Supernatural, they travel the United States, but it's all done right there. We see all of the United States in Vancouver.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me.
Yeah, it is. And well, Riverdale is shot in Vancouver. So again, they've leaned into that Pacific Northwest noir look, I think, to great advantage. So yeah, and because there were so many sci-fi and supernatural shows, they were what put Vancouver on the map. There's also special effects done here, and there's just all of the skilled workers that you would need to produce a show like that are here. And I think in the last couple of years too, we're finally starting to grow our own Vancouver industry, and we've got a long way to go with that. But now that content is being produced all over the world, and people are really interested in seeing like a show from Iceland. I want to see a show from Iceland. I have no idea what Iceland looks like. Don't know what the people are like, but I'm interested. I've watched movies from Africa because I want to know what it looks like in Nigeria. And I'm clearly not the only person. So it's really wonderful to see the storytellers all over the world getting a chance to um, tell something that's unique to where they are.
Have you thought about writing and producing for yourself? So many, especially actresses. I usually
Mm-hmm.
just group everybody as actors, but to specify female actors,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they get to a point where there's just no parts, there's no roles, there's no offers coming in, and they become their own production. Have you thought
Mm-hmm.
about writing and producing for yourself?
I have. You know, it's it's a big undertaking. And I also know what that kind of work is like because I did that on stage long before I ever thought of having a film and television career. And for exactly the same reasons, you know, there are limited roles for women. And unless women roll up their sleeves and start creating work that gives more opportunities to women, that's not going to change. But having done it on stage, I know the kind of work and drive and dedication that it takes. And it would have to be the right project.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
That's what I'll say.
one of my
Yeah.
most recent favorite TV shows is something called Schitt's Creek that Eugene Levy.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that show, but you watch the credits. There's 15 names of Levy. The whole family is involved in that. So
Yeah.
that seems like that would be where I would like to see entertainment going. That we know what people like and we are going to produce that.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. And also, Phoenix Sisters. Yeah, I agree. Sisters are doing it for themselves. There's some wonderful shows, but you know, because it's so much work and it requires such dedication. Most of them are considerably younger than me.
Do this being a celebration, not really a convention.
Yeah,
Have you done comic book conventions, sci-fi conventions? Have you done those before?
I've done a couple. The one in Vancouver. That's where I've been a couple of times, and really the warmth of the fans was absolutely overwhelming
Oh
at
yeah.
that point. And so this is a big shout out to all the fans. I'm a pretty private person, so I don't often get a chance to say thank you to people who watch my work. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for inviting me into your living room uninvited.
Well, that seems like the perfect place to bring this to a close. You have
Yeah,
been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us. We wish you all the best in every
thank
possible
you.
way.
Thank you so much. And it's a great thing you all are doing, and blessings to everyone. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so
All right.
much. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.